evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Today we're going to be going over the Aromage deck profile. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty standard. Very simple. More often than not, I mean, actually, I'm really going to be going over the main deck because the extra deck is, it's not even really needed. But we'll go into that later. Let's get into the deck profile right now. We're going to be starting off with 3 copies of Jasmine. This is the overall most important card of the deck. 3 copies of Rosemary, very important as well. 3 copies of Kananga, 3 Lone Fire Blossom, and 2 Cactus Bouncer. That's going to sum with the monsters. As for spells, we're going to run 3 copies of Aroma Garden, 3 copies of Poison in the Old Man, 2 copies of Terraforming, 2 Magic Planner. This was a last second edition. 2 Pot of Duality, 2 Mystical Space Typhoon. That's going to sum with the spells at, I believe, about 14. As for traps, we're going to run 3 copies of Humid Winds, 3 Fiendish Chain, 2 Lose One Turn, 2 Dried Winds, and 2 Mirror Force. Now, there's quite a few cards that I decided not to run. That a lot of people might be scratching their heads over, and I'm going to go into complete detail of why I don't run them. Cards like Jiragato, however you say that card's name, Aegis of Gaia, Enchanted Javelin, Draining Shield, they all have one thing in common. They rely on your opponent to battle you or for you to enter your battle phase in order for you to gain life points. If you guys haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh! In a long time, Mirror Force is the only good battle applicating card, mainly because more often than not, when your opponent's done with you or entering their battle phase, they're going to have plenty of monsters in the field, and on top of that, they're going to already get over all of your resources monster-wise. Your monsters will more often than not be dead. So, I mean, it's really pointless to run cards like that. Jiragato really conflicts with Cactus Bouncer as well. I mean, basically, if I have Cactus Bouncer on the field, it basically says I can't activate one of my life point gaining cards. And I just felt for this specific deck, Jiragato is not really that good of a card because, yes, it does involve you entering your battle phase. You normally want to get all of your effects off in the main phase. So if I want to get my Aromage Jasmines, my Rosemarys, my Kanangas, I want to get them off in the main phase. So I can either force my opponent to activate those cards so I can draw cards so I can get to my more resources, switch my opponent's monsters to defense ahead of time, and, you know, get myself better situation. That's why I didn't run Jiragato. I think that card is not that great for this deck, but hey, to each his own. For enchanted cards like Enchanted Javelin, Aegis of Gaia, and all that other stuff, it's pretty much the same thought process. Enchanted Javelin and Draining Shield does require our opponent to attack, and yes, we do gain life points, but more often than not, we're going to lose our monster, and that it's just a lot of people thinking that just gaining life points gets the deck. No, you have to gain life points at a certain amount of times to be able to do it. So Poison in the Old Man, I felt, was superior to all of those other choices because Poison in the Old Man has the best symbol of all time. It is the best status, which is a quick play spell card. I can activate it anytime during my turn. I can activate it during my opponent's turn. I can activate it during my battle phase. I can activate it when I draw it. And that's why I decided to go with Poisons of the Old Man as opposed to any other life point gain spell card or trap card, mainly because I can activate it any other time and gain my Aromage's monsters effects. I felt that was really important to be able to play the deck. You could coincidentally run a 3rd copy of Cactus Bouncer. I was running 2. I really didn't feel a need for 3. But Cactus Bouncer, like I said, it wins you games. It really does. You summon this with another plant monster, and then you can proceed to control the board. More often than not, if it's an Aromage or Rosemary, you will definitely control your opponent's attacks. You could run Bergamot. I just found no reason. Like, there was no application to run Bergamot for the exception of Cleave Towers. And I feel if I'm playing against a Cleave player, I shouldn't even really worry about that if he's running towers. I should worry about, you know, a good Cleave build as opposed to a back row build than towers. So, I mean, it is what it is. You could run it yourself if you want to. It actually does help with loser turn. For example, if you Lone Fire Blossom into your Aromage Jasmine, and now you can't activate loser turn, you could tribute that Jasmine for Bergamot, but I'd rather just plus off a Jasmine. I mean, it's not a horrible card. I just wouldn't run it, and if I were to run it, I wouldn't run more than 1. It's just not needed. I could have ran Mistake, but I've decided not to. Mistake is a really good card in here, mainly because Magic Planners are cards, and I run enough continuous spell cards for Magic Planner to be active. But I do search in this deck, and when I search in this deck, I really need to search your Dualities and your Humid Winds, all search cards. But I mean, you could run Mistake. More often than not, if you're activating Mistake against your opponent, you're winning the game because of Mistake. So it's not really that bad of a card. If you're not mainboarding it, you could potentially sideboard it and win a game because of it. Humid Winds, Aroma Guardian, and Dried Winds are probably some of the most underrated cards in the game. Now, Aroma Guardian, at first glance, you think that, oh, it's just, you know, regular field spell card. First of all, that 500 gain life points on your turn is amazing. And it also gives all your plant monsters 500 attack until the end of your opponent's turn. That's also another good thing when you need to get over normal monsters, because you can see the cap of this deck is 1800 attack. So, while, like I said, Bergamot could solve that problem, 2300 attack is, you know, it's still under the barrier, but I shouldn't have any problems after that with 2300 attack. And then just a removal or switching monsters to defense. More often than not, monsters don't have a defense stronger than 2300 attack. So Rosemary switches to defense and then they get over it, and, you know, now we don't have a problem. Humid Winds, you really have to learn how to abuse this card. At first, it becomes kind of complicated because you have to have less life points to your opponent to activate its effect. But if you keep abusing the fact that you can search any of your Aromage monsters from your deck to your hand, by keep paying 1,000 life points to get yourself under and then gain 500, you're gonna have a lot of fun with that. It's gonna be a really good card. Dried Winds, I ran it in multiples. I was actually thinking about running 1, and if you wanted to drop it down to 1, it's not that bad to drop it down to 1. But Dried Winds has actually saved me a lot. It's so much control inside of this card. So I mean, basically it says my opponent needs to summon a monster that can't be targeted and is bigger than 2300. Which is, like, you know, Cosmos do have that certain type of card, but I have outs to, you know, prevent my opponent from even playing the card in the first place. But that's what basically Dried Winds says, because Dried Winds essentially destroys monsters on my opponent's side of the field every time I gain life points. Also, if I have 3k more than my opponent's life points, I can pay that difference to destroy monsters on my opponent's side of the field. I've used its effects quite a few times. I'm so serious. I thought this card was going to be bad. It's not that bad. The only reason why I run 2 is just to draw into it sooner. Same thing with Humid Winds, and that's another reason why Magic Planner is in here. If you guys don't like the Magic Planners, or, you know, you wanted to drop the Dried Winds, I would never drop the Humid Winds just because you want to see them as fast as possible. You can run Mind Crush, because Mind Crush is just such a great card. Fiendish Chain and Mirror Force are Fiendish Chain and Mirror Force. Duality, because we don't special summon too much. Mystical Space Typhoons for obvious reasons. Terraforming is to see their Aroma Garden as fast as possible. You do want to see this card as fast as possible. It's not even funny how fast you want to see this. It's not mandatory to have it. Like, I've won plenty of games without it. But when you have this card, your games are just so much easier. You don't have to worry about, you know, what am I going to do for gaining life points? You know, how am I going to get that attack strength? This card practically solves all of your problems by itself, so that was a pretty good card to look at. There's still a lot of choices that I probably haven't even mentioned that gain life points, like Try and Guess. Since you don't really need an extra deck, you could run 3 Try and Guess or 2 Try and Guess. The reason why I didn't is because I don't need, you know, it's a trap card. I don't really need it. Just the fact that it's a trap card immediately tells me that it's not the best thing in the world. I want a quick play that I can activate at any given time. Don't get me wrong, Try and Guess is a pretty good card, and it'll help you trigger off Dried Winds a lot faster, and all your Aromage's effects, obviously. But I was just like, I'd rather not. I'd just rather have a normal extra deck. You know, forget it being a trap, and, you know, all that other stuff. It's just so slow, and let me have that. And right now, I really couldn't think of a card to cut off for Dried Winds. Maybe, like, really, I definitely wouldn't take out Poison of the Old Man. It's the best spell, or it's the best life point gain card in here, besides the regular Aromage support. Well, that's pretty much it for the normal deck. What you want to do, basically, like I said, is just control a board, control a board, control a board. Switch your opponent's monsters' attacks, defense, bounce their spells and traps, draw cards, and prevent them from special summoning. Loanfrog Blossoms are pretty obvious. Your whole deck is plant and special summonable, except for Cactus Bouncer. Let's get to the extra deck. Alright guys, the extra deck is very, you can put anything you want in your extra deck. The only card I feel is required is the card on top, which is Gemini Pearl, and I'll explain that to you later. I mean, that's only if you're playing lose 1 turns. So let's get down to it. The reason why you run Gemini Pearl is because you can special summon it under lose a turn, and it won't change to defense because it's not an effect monster. That's it, really. That is completely it. Honor Arc, Rebellion, Castell, Exciton, Daguster Emerald, Antiluminescent Knight. This was actually for Infernoids. I really wanted to test it out to see how it worked against Infernoids. Roach, Dweller, Acid Golem, Alucard, Zenmanes, Malay of Trees, Cavalry Centauria, Gotcha Kentetsu. You could run Down Syndrome Magician. It's whatever. Like this extra deck really does not matter. You can run whatever you want. I just chose to run the most standard stuff because it was like, why not? There will be times where I might need to go into my extra deck to possibly win the game or do something funny. Another thing that I actually wanted to say about the extra deck is that the main deck is that I did want to run the Plant Engine, which is why you guys don't see any synchros or anything. The Plant Engine, I just felt took away from the deck's consistency or synergy to be an anti-meta deck. I feel like this deck is really anti-meta. You want to play as many traps as possible, the least amount of monsters, and all of your monsters have anti-meta like effects like Kananga, decreasing your opponent's monsters' attacks, Rosemary being able to switch your opponent's monsters, and preventing your opponent from activating monster effects, Jasmine to draw cards and you know, give you an extra normal summon of a plant, and then Cactus Bouncer, the shutdown card. So I really felt that this deck was really anti-meta-ish, and there was no need for me to play a Plant Engine because it doesn't help the synergy of the deck. It really doesn't do anything for the deck, and none of the Aromages have consistency or, you know, any type of synergy with Synchro Summoning. So I went Exceed all the way, and you guys can see, like I said, you can run anything. Now up to the combos. Alright everybody, the combos are very, very situational. It really requires a lot of things to go down and a lot of things to be in your favor. But we're going to start off with the first combo. It's a 3-card combo. It's going to require Aromage, Guardian, Lonefire Blossom, and Cactus Bouncer into your hand. If you don't have Lonefire Blossom, it could be Jasmine itself. So what you're going to do, you're going to normal summon the Lonefire Blossom, and you're going to activate its effect. You're going to tribute it to go into Aromage Jasmine. Now, then you're going to activate your Aroma Guardian, activate its effect, and Jasmine's going to draw you a card. It really doesn't matter. We'll actually draw into the Lonefire Blossom because you guys are so good, you're going to be sacky. Then with that, you're going to normal summon the Cactus Bouncer because your life points are higher than your opponent's, and you're going to set X amount of back row to prevent your opponent from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! More often than not, this is a standard setup that you guys want to open with, and it's pretty good. It's a pretty strong setup, especially if one of them is like Poison of the Old Man or Humanist Winds or anything to gain you life points, because then on your opponent's end phase, if they don't have any interaction with you, you're going to activate your gain life points card, draw another card, and then keep going from there, and it's just going to be, it's not going to be nice for your opponent. This is like like I said, the very standard combo, a combo that you want to start off with if you can. It's an ideal hand, and it only requires 3 cards, 2 cards if you draw into it. The next combo, like I said, it requires a bit of setup as well, but it's going to require Aromage Kananga, 2 Aromage Kananga, or even 1. I mean, if you have 2, it really helps, but 1 is just sufficient, and you have to have at least 1,100 life points lower than your opponent. So basically, our opponent is attacking with Cosmo Farm Girl, and you have a Poison of the Old Man face down. So you're going to activate Poison of the Old Man, and then you gain 1,200 life points, putting you 100 over your opponent, which means your Kananga's effects activate. Or they don't activate, but they're continuous. They would activate to bounce your opponent's back row, but that's not the effect I'm talking about. The effect is to decrease your opponent's monster by 500 for each. So the farm row goes down by 1,000 points, and they'll lose the battle more often than not unless they have an honest. I mean, like I said, it's a very situational combo. Normally, you could use this for any given combo. Let's say if you have Kananga and any other plant monster on the field, your life points are a little lower. They attack, you go Poison the Old Man. Your opponent's monster lose 500 attack, and they lose a back row card. So I mean, it comes in handy to manipulate your life points when to make them lower, so your opponent can think that you can activate your effects, and that actually comes in part with humid winds and dried winds. This actually requires you to have lower life points to your opponent. I think by an increment less than it has to be like a 500 difference kind of. So on your opponent's turn, you're going to activate humid winds. You're going to drop 1,000 life points. You're going to be lower than your opponents. So then you'll be able to activate its effect to gain life points, and you'll chain the Dried Winds. So the Dried Winds is able to destroy a monster, while the Humanist Winds will get you Aromage Jasmine, because you love Jasmine. On your turn, you should have the exact same amount of life points as your opponent around. You normal summon Jasmine. You pay 1,000. Your 1,000 will get you Aromage Rosemary. And then you gain life points again, which means you get to draw another card and destroy another monster. You'll normal summon Rosemary, and on your opponent's turn, you'll pay and you'll gain. You get to switch Jasmine to defense, or whatever opponent's monster is to defense, and then you'll be able to draw a card as well. That and destroy a monster. So that, like, these 2 cards are, like I said, are really, really good. You want to see them as fast as possible, and that's just one reason why. Another combo is, I mean, basically exactly what I said. You're going to normal summon Jasmine, normal summon Rosemary, and poison the old man. Your opponent's trying to get over your Jasmine. You're going to activate Poison the Old Man. You're going to switch this one to defense, and then you're going to draw a card. Effectively, it has 1900 defense, so it's not that easy to get over. So more often than not, if Rosemary can't switch that monster to defense to protect the Jasmine, Rosemary can switch Jasmine to defense, and it does have 1900 defense. Like I said, it's kind of hard to get over for any level 4 or lower monster. Those are really all the combos, quote unquote, that I can think of. Like I said, this deck, I like to call it an opportunist type deck because all the combos are very situational. You activate them at any given time and at any given place, and this deck is really, really fun to play. I love the way it plays. I think that it's one of the best anti-meta decks to ever come out in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because first of all, most anti-meta decks should have never used the extra deck in the first place. This is a deck that doesn't rely on extra deck like Evil Swarm and Constellar, and just about any other anti-meta deck. This deck relies on just out-resourcing your opponent, switching your opponent's attack position cards, bouncing their spells and traps, and drawing cards, something that an anti-meta deck has never had. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. On the left-hand corner, you guys can see me explaining how to play the deck. It's just a really good series that I like to talk about, going in details of the cards that you could play if you guys did not see or agree with any of the cards you've seen in the deck profile. On the right-hand side, it is me playing Aromages on Dev Pro. I play some pretty interesting decks. I know that this deck isn't the deck that you guys would want to see to beat, but it's definitely a very fun deck and a deck that could compete against the meta under the right circumstances. Like normal, guys, thank you so much for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.